The Ghoul is a man of few words, but doesn't it seem like things would go a hell of a lot better for him if he would just tell Lucy what the hell is going on more often? So why doesn't he? Let's talk about it. I hear this one all the time. It comes up in my comments, it comes up in my streams. Why doesn't the Ghoul explain stuff to Lucy? I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't planning on making a smart video this week. I was gonna go silly and stupid because Wasteland Jamboree is very soon, and me and Atlas Omnicorp have a lot of prep to do for our vendor booth. But congratulations, you're getting another game theory video anyway. So first let's recap a bunch of examples of the Ghoul not talking. Sure, when he dunks Lucy in the water, he does disclose that he's using her as bait so they can catch the gulper and so that he can get the MacGuffin inside Wilzig's head. But he doesn't tell her that the reason he needs that payday so urgently is medical, because if he doesn't get the caps to get that Ghoul serum very soon, he's going to have a very bad time. And we know how dire the situation was because he was doing a great job holding it together until she walks into that super duper mart and then he collapses. He also doesn't tell her that the reason that he wasn't sharing his water with her is because it's highly irradiated, which he can tolerate a lot better than she can. He wasn't that worried about her radiation levels when he was using her as bait in the Poison River, but he wasn't planning on selling her in near mint condition at that point. And during the scene with Roger, his friend, the Ghoul that's going feral, when Lucy tells the Ghoul her full name, Lucy McLean, the Ghoul does not disclose how he recognizes that last name. And when Lucy asks, how could you live this way? How could you cannibalize somebody that was once your friend? He is silent. He does not share that he's looking for his family. And when he invites her to travel with him across the wasteland because they're both after the same Hank McLean, he does not share that he's planning on using her as a bargaining chip to get information out of Hank. But most famously, the moment that is most controversial and the one that I bring attention to the very most, he does not explain to her why folks in tunics are not worth saving. And then he puts on full display that he would sooner slash their throats, eat them, and use them as rad scorpion shields than give them their last stim pack. So, why? You've probably heard people say knowledge is power, but I think it would be more accurate to say that knowledge is powerful, independent of you. Think of information like a chemical. Even if you know everything there is to know about the composition of that particular chemical, if you're combining it with a mystery chemical you know nothing about, you have no clue how it's going to react. You have no idea what's going to happen once that information hits somebody else's brain. Take it from somebody who's been making online content for 20 years. There is no way to explain something so clearly that it lands on the public precisely as you intended it. If there was, I would have found it by now, I promise. If you haven't seen people take the well-intentioned information that you provided and apply it as destructively as possible, you will, Vaulty, you will. Hell, a lot of the time you don't even know how information's gonna impact your brain. You can totally destroy yourself with information you're not ready to have yet. Behold, the internet. Everybody has access to all the information ever known by all of mankind and all of human history, and we have no idea what to do with it. There are a lot of arguments to be made that we should not have access to all the information that we have access to for the same reason that a 13-year-old shouldn't have a credit card. The point is that there's no doubt after 200 years in the wasteland that the Ghoul has figured out that information can be destructive or constructive. And when you're wielding something that powerful, you'll want to keep it under control. That's the Brotherhood of Steel's whole thing. And there are game theory principles that apply here, so let's do the whole vocab word educational thing. Quick interjection, something I decided that I wanted to add during the editing process. While this video is going to explain why the Ghoul withholds so much information, that doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with every time he decides to do so. I think there are times when his responsibility to her as her wasteland elder should have outweighed his assessment of her as a potential threat. I go into more detail about that in the How the Ghoul Let Lucy Down video, so just wanted to throw that out there. End transmission. The core principle here is information asymmetry. We've touched on this a lot, like when I was saying things about how lying can be argued to be an act of violence, that you're overpowering somebody when you have more information than they do. Deception is non-physical violence. It's mental bondage. It's a way to assert power and dominance in the absence of brute force. In a way, lying is worse than physical violence, because you're not damaging their body, you're damaging their perception of reality. You're taking away their agency, their right to respond to the real world, because you've taken the real world away and replaced it with one that you've created to suit your needs. And omitting facts counts as lying if you're denying information you know damn well would impact the person's choices. You're taking control over something you have no right to control. If the Ghoul hangs on to information that Lucy doesn't have, if she lacks full context, she can introduce less chaos. Her choices are going to be more predictable. She's going to be easier to steer. And when it comes to things like withholding the information about how he's looking for his family, that's a huge vulnerability. I mean, look at how much power Hank has over him later by leveraging how much he wants his family. I mean, apparently you can make him do just about anything if he sees that carrot on the end of a stick. During that scene with Roger, he has no idea what Lucy could do with that knowledge. All he knows is that this person is the child of somebody that he has every reason in the world not to trust. So sometimes people are going to withhold information to keep the power that they already have and not give it away. Sometimes they're going to withhold that information to actively have power over you. But sometimes you do need to cooperate with people. In that case, that brings us to the next principle, strategic disclosure. I mean, the masterclass in strategic disclosure in the Fallout franchise is obviously Mr. House. And God bless him, he'll just tell you. It's not advantageous to me for you to have that information yet, so just focus on the things that I've told you that you need to know to do what I want you to do, and then when I want you to do things that require more information, then I will pass out the information as needed.
We can discuss this in greater detail at another time. That's all you need to know about it for this stage of our enterprise. It's understandable that you'd be curious about this topic, but we'll hold off until the platinum chip has been recovered.
So would it have been strategic for the Ghoul to tell Lucy that the reason tunics are bad is because the Legion is an irredeemable, fucked up society? I mean, really think about this. I mean, really.
Can we just be hard-dicked for a second?
If you explained to Lucy that a society is irredeemably fucked up, would she believe you?
Did it ever occur to you that if you helped them, they would stop?
She watched these people slash the throat of the very person she tried to save, watched them torture people, whip people, with her own eyes, and still thought she could teach them conflict resolution. If he had told her everything that was fucked up about these people, she probably would have gone #challenge accepted. File this away, there is no point, no function of full disclosure when there is not trust. Explaining everything would have just given her more powerful information to create chaos with. The name of the game for the Ghoul at this point was strategic ambiguity, to only disclose information that was the most likely to keep the both of them alive. Over-explaining the Legion introduced way too much risk. And the next thing we gotta talk about is signaling and screening, which is sort of the analytical game theory way to explain how talk is cheap, don't look at what people say, look at what they do. Before the Ghoul introduces information that could create chaos, he needs to observe how she reacts in certain situations, and also give her a chance to see how he responds to situations. She's more likely to be understanding about the horrific things that he does if she witnesses it literally keeping them alive. So signaling is when you're the one that has more information and you are passing that information to the other party with your actions, and screening is when they have the information that you don't have, and you're going to want to either observe in the wild or structure a situation where you can get that information. If he tells Lucy, you don't want to drink this water, it's poisonous for you and not for me, she might not believe him. But if they pass water and her rad meter is going off the charts and she sees him refill his canteen with that poisonous water, that is signaling. And him seeing that despite knowing about the rad meter and knowing that the rad meter has no impact on whether or not he wants to drink it, she makes the choice to drink the poisonous water anyway, that is screening.
Now you're good now.
He needs to understand what choices she's likely to make before he introduces the chaos of information that he has no idea how she's going to respond to. Behavioral signals are harder to fake than verbal claims. People tell you who they want to be, but they show you who they are. Screening and signaling might sound super manipulative, but everybody's doing it whether they're aware that they're doing it or not. She's screening him when she sees him eat people.
Funky Deathclaw reminding you to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe!
Lucy wasn't educated in an environment where her safety and survival were constantly under threat. Lucy's survival system is tuned to being a good person versus being a bad person. Her instinct is to be obedient to a moral code. She thinks that safety comes from acting in a way that makes other people trust her. But that programming came from an environment that wanted her to stay predictable. But you don't want to be predictable to a force that has bad intentions for you. And the Ghoul doesn't trust Lucy's intentions, not because he doesn't trust Lucy, he doesn't trust the programming that she obeys. And he shouldn't. Why shouldn't he? Well, we went into this in a lot more detail in the last video when I talked about the prisoner's dilemma. The Ghoul has been surviving for 200 years in an environment where he's learned to expect people to look out for their short-term best interest instead of their long-term best interest. He's learned to expect defection over cooperation. Lucy is capable of and programmed for long-term cooperation, but under the guise of the golden rule, under the rules and laws that are established within Vault-Tec culture. And like Wilzig says, this place is indifferent to all of that.
You come from a world of rules, of laws. This place is indifferent to all of that. I do not think you would be willing to do what it takes to survive up here.
The golden rule is meaningless if not everyone is on board. The ghoul didn't tell Lucy that he was on his last legs needing that serum, because that information could be leveraged against him, which is what I was expecting when she walked out of the Super Duper Mart and had all those vials. In that situation, her programming worked in his favor, because her good girl moral code said, give him all the vials and don't do that. But that's only because her programming has taught her to help the person who is the weakest, not the person who is the most loyal to her, not the person that she can trust. If her moral code says turn on the ghoul, that is exactly what she does. So if he continues to screen her and he continues to see the pattern that she will choose her Vault-Tec moral code over him every time, why would he arm her with information? I'm autistic, and we the fine folks of the spectrum have a tendency to think that information and data is neutral. That this means this, and there's no other way to read it or interpret it other than this means this. But you live long enough, you start to see the exact same facts can be packaged and presented to support almost any claim that you want. And the way that we package and distribute and interpret information tends to be far more informed by our programming and our nervous systems than by just straight up logic. The human brain has this really obnoxious quality where if it can block information out, it doesn't exist. And that's why privilege is so dangerous. Because if you don't want to look at something that's unpleasant, you just don't have to. And nobody can make you, and how dare they if they try? You are protecting your peace. Climate change is just a shame campaign. If people of color didn't talk about racism, it wouldn't be a problem, would it? If you're motivated enough, you can compile data, facts, and information to back up any claim you want. Just leave out the data that's inconvenient. It's what the cool kids do. I think a lot of people are triggered by the ghoul not explaining stuff because of how deeply they've been hurt and betrayed by people not explaining things to them. Trust me, I've been there and it hurts. But file this away. Just because you deserve trust does not mean that other people owe it to you. Louder for those in the back. Just because you deserve trust doesn't mean that everyone and anyone owes it to you. You might think that you are completely safe, but you actually don't know that you are. Lucy thought that she was completely safe. She wasn't. If we had more time, I'd unpack the Rumsfeld matrix here, but you don't know what you don't know. You don't understand what you don't understand. So you have no idea what harm you are capable of doing with the information that's being withheld from you. This is why it's so important for humans to divide themselves into families and cultures and tribes and groups, even though we have been trained to hate that. Because we have to know, if this person hides information from me, they're betraying me, but if this person hides information from me, I have to respect that because they're being responsible. And we have to make peace with the fact that we have to make decisions with imperfect information every fucking day. I mean, think about it. All of us are operating and fully responsible for a brain and a body that none of us completely understand. It's not even possible for a human brain to fully understand a human brain because it would take something more sophisticated than a human brain to fully understand it. And we've got to hold our cards. We've got to protect our safety. And this game theory stuff has never been more important, considering the time in human history that we are living right now, that makes Fallout so relevant. Last night when I should have been sleeping and I was on the internet, I learned a new word. I'm pretty excited to share this with you. Anime. Not anime, anime. It's like a cross between anime and enemy, which is weirdly fitting. But anyway, so Oxford definition, a sense of alienation from society characterized by feelings of hopelessness, loss of purpose, and isolation. But in sociology, this is from Wikipedia, a social condition defined by an uprooting or breakdown of any moral values, standards, or guidance for individuals to follow. Anime is believed to possibly evolve from conflict of belief systems and causes breakdown of social bonds between an individual and the community, both economic and primary socialization. We are living through a breakdown of social and moral cohesion. That's why conservatives are fucking losing their minds and making very strange people the president. They're absolutely right that we need that cohesion to have trust that creates the long-term cooperative planning that could make this prisoner's dilemma hellscape get under control. But they're not correct about what that framework should be. It leaves too many people out. It only benefits a very small privileged few. We need to build a new, shared, agreed upon civil code, but that's gonna take a long time. And in the meantime, we gotta survive. We gotta stay alive. Sometimes that's gonna mean not trusting people. Sometimes that's gonna mean defecting. Sometimes that's gonna mean taking karma hits. And it's confusing, and it's scary, and it's fucking lonely. But we gotta hang in there. And if you're walking around going, well, if everybody was just honest and open and trusted each other and were kind and empathetic, that's all we need. I'm sorry to say it's more complicated than that. It's gonna take a long time for us to build that cohesion. And we have to take care of ourselves and practice discernment and do a lot of work to figure out who we can trust and who we can open up to. And it's not fair. It sucks. The real world is not your mom. For a lot of us, our mom wasn't our mom. If you believe in God or source or a higher power, that's cool. I do too. I really do. But there is a lot of noise between us and God right now. A lot. Whether you believe or not, you're gonna be surrounded by people who don't. If there is a Messiah coming back for us, he better know to keep his fucking mouth shut or he's gonna end up in a mental hospital, and you know in your heart what I'm saying is true. Information is power. Don't give it away all willy-nilly.
If you insist on staying, then you will have to adapt. The question is, will you still want the same things when you have become a different animal altogether?
Community section for the Feral Cools. I will be streaming this Saturday, April 18th, and the following Saturday, April 25th, but not Saturday, May 2nd because of Wasteland Jamboree. And I do want to have another video out before then, before May 1st. Not the normal Friday morning time because I will be on an airplane at that time. And because of all the prep work I gotta do, I'm leaning toward finishing and kind of re-releasing my Far Harbor main story playthrough. Man, those poor bastards. Dima sitting there like, what happened to Nora? She was so helpful and she just disappeared. And she left her nuke armor just sitting here. So it'd be kind of nice to clear that from my conscience before I go to West Virginia. And me and a couple of friends of mine recently were laughing our asses off about a settlement idea that I am not gonna ruin for you. You can see that if you come to the stream on Saturday. If you are coming to Wasteland Jamboree, please swing by the Atlas Omnicorp vendor tent. I will be there sometimes. My primary job is going to be running around, taking pictures, finding cool cosplayers to pose with the products and stuff like that. Oh man, I still need to think about how I'm going to do that because I don't want to be that douchebag being like, hey, you're famous. Will you please take a picture with the thing that we're selling? We need money. You look cool. If anybody happens to know some cool Fallout influencers, content creators that are gonna be there, that could be super cool to take pictures with some of the products, if you could break some ice for me so I don't make awkward autistic mistakes, that would be awesome. So until next time, stay cool, ferals.